Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
All right, just ahead of Elliotte Friedman standing by, a reminder that all of our guests today on this Tuesday are brought to you by the Waddling Dog Pub. One of Victoria's historic watering holes welcomes you to come and see why. They're the talk of the peninsula. The Dog is the place to be for every Canucks, Whitecaps, Lions game, NFL. Reminder, you can swing by their attached liquor store to pick up your Donnie and Dolly swag. There are countless reasons to come, sit, and stay at the Waddling Dog. Canucks and Stars tonight, Rogers Arena, and again, our thanks to Tom Goulardi for joining us, Stars owner, and Kamloops Blazers owner. Earlier in the show, he bought the Stars in 2011 for $265 million. Then you hear these stories about the Ottawa Senators. You know, the figure $1 billion is being bandied about, and multiple parties bidding. Tom's got to be pretty happy with that purchase. Although originally he wanted the Canucks.
Yeah.
From Del Boca Vista in Florida, the NHL GM meetings are going on down there. From Hockey Night in Canada and the 32 Thoughts podcast, joining us now, Elliotte Friedman. Elliotte, thanks for this. How are you, sir?
I'm good. Are you guys good seeing and hearing me right now?
Not seeing, but we can certainly hear you loud and clear.
Well, you know what, Ryan, send me that note again about starting the video. I don't know. Somehow I went into safe driving mode.
Do you want to take a break here?
He's good.
Okay.
Oh, he's good.
No, we're good.
Okay. There he is. There he is. Okay. Wow. Look, you've got the Florida look going.
Palm trees.
Is this Elliotte Friedman or Don Johnson? Who are we talking to here?
Miami Vice.
I gotta tell you, that's very flattering, but it's the most inaccurate thing you've ever said on the show, Don.
Yeah. Well, that wouldn't be true, and it's also really dated. But people are used to that here. Hey, we just talked about this. Multiple buyers reportedly bidding for the Ottawa Senators. You know, people talking about $850 million, $1 billion, a possible purchase price. What makes them such an attractive buy?
You know, I think the thing is, I think there's a couple of things there. Number one is that I think a lot of people look at the Ottawa Senators as a bit of been devalued like the last couple of years. Like just it wasn't a team that was run at the top in a way that most gave it a chance to be successful. I think that people kind of look at it and say that there's an unpolished gem there. I think also, the fact that there's talking about a downtown arena, although I'm not convinced every group here is looking at the downtown arena. There is the likelihood or possibility of it. I think that the team is going in the right direction. They've got a lot of exciting young players that are signed. Not every one of them, but a lot of them are. They're there with term. Like they've got a really good future when you look at it. They've made a late run here, and although last weekend wasn't good for them in Vancouver and Calgary, you can see the promise. So, I think all of that, Don, is kind of why you're seeing multiple bids here. I think they feel very comfortable that there's a bright future, both in terms of an arena, whether it's downtown or it's elsewhere, and the way the team looks, that there's something to build on. And initially the talk was $800 million. I think we're going to go over that. I think there's a question about, how much is the team worth and how much is the arena worth. But those two numbers together, I think easily are going to get us over $800 million. And I think the other thing that we're trying to figure out here, Don, isn't there kind of an early stalking horse? I think in horse racing, they call it a rabbit that shoots out of the gate quick and puts a big number on there for everybody to try and match. And I think we're all trying to determine the possibility of whether or not it happened. I think some of the bidders believe it did happen, but, I can't confirm that.
NHL GM meetings, we understand much of the talk yesterday was about safety, and we've seen this a few times with the Canucks going back to Kevin Bieksa, but Ryan Johansson recently suffered a laceration in his leg. Go back to Evander Kane, laceration on his wrist. I think Tyler Seguin had a scary incident as well. Elliotte, what can the NHL possibly do about that? Because my understanding is that Ryan Johansson had the Kevlar, if I've got that right, Kevlar socks on, and yet he still suffered that serious injury. So what would the next step be?
Well, I think, first of all, right now they're not mandatory, right? So I think one of the things they want to do is they want to see about making it mandatory, or as with the helmets and the visors and now the helmets during pregame, grandfather it in so that future players have to wear it. And that's just not on the legs, but also the wrists. I think they want players to wear protection on the wrists. And right now it's not mandatory, and the Players Association has to agree. You can't unilaterally force them, so they're working towards that. So I think there's a couple of things here, Don. Number one is making it mandatory. Number two is putting it on other positions of your body, not just your legs, for example, but also your wrist. But the specific question you're asking is a really good one. And, one of the things they have here is they have a gentleman, I believe his name is David Gushu. He comes and he talks about where technology is going when it's about equipment. And I think that is exactly the kind of thing that he talks about is, okay, you have the cut-resistant socks. We still had an injury. Where are we going here that can prevent this? Because skates are getting sharpened, keener than ever. And so I think that's the question we're asking is, okay, maybe these cut-resistant socks can minimize the damage, but can we do even more of that? And I think that's where the conversation is going, to answer your question.
Elliotte, the hottest team in the NHL, your Vancouver Canucks, 4 straight wins, 7-2-1 in their past 10. If they keep going like this, Elliotte, could it alter their decision making in the summer? What are you making of this run under Tocchet?
Well, first of all, I'm not surprised it's happening because, I think Tocchet's a hard driving guy. I remember when he was the assistant coach in Pittsburgh. The players used to talk about how hard he practiced with them. He would battle. Crosby would laugh about how Tocchet would battle with him in practice. And I think I told you guys this before, but when he was the coach in Arizona, I remember watching him do a post-practice bag skate with Michael Grabner. And Tocchet is a hard guy in terms of the attitude that he expects. So I'm not surprised that you are kind of seeing this. It doesn't surprise me at all. Rick, I don't think it changes. Look, you guys are at the forefront of the Vancouver media game. By now, we all know how the organization thinks. A full rebuild, it's not happening.
Nope.
And so do I think it changes the way the franchise is going? No, I don't think it does, because I think that decision's already been made. And if anything else, it probably makes them feel better about bringing Tocchet in, because you can kind of see the attitude that's growing underneath them, and that's the attitude that they want. So I don't think it changes a thing. I think whether or not people liked it, this was always the direction that they were going.
But Elliotte, let me ask you this. JT Miller's been great under Tocchet.
Yeah.
Could Tocchet go to the team and say, don't move this guy in the summer or before the draft? I mean, could something change there?
I think this, Rick. I think there were people in the organization who didn't want Schenn traded, right?
Right.
And he got traded.
Yeah. He
got traded. So what that says to me is Rutherford will listen to opinions, but he'll do what he thinks is best, right? So,
right.
I think so. We'll see if Schenn comes back this summer. We'll see what the future holds. But at the very least, he has shown that you can tell me your opinion. And all what that said to me was Schenn wasn't getting traded for a 6th round pick. They got what they got, and they said, that's the price we want, and we move them. If you take a look at Miller, one of the, there's a couple of reasons this trade with Pittsburgh didn't happen. Number one, out of it, the Canucks had to know that they were getting a young center.
Yeah.
There wasn't one available, so that's one of the reasons this trade didn't happen. The other one was, I think there were players coming back to Vancouver that they didn't want to keep full-time, so they were trying to look at where else can we move these players. Now, I do think there was one option that was available to them, but it still wasn't enough to get the whole deal done. So what this says to me is JT Miller is not going anywhere unless the Canucks get the price that they want for him or the piece that they want for him. So that's kind of the way I look at it is, could JT Miller get traded? Yeah, I think it's possible, but I think it's not happening unless the Canucks say, this is what we want in exchange, and we're not getting it unless we get it in exchange.
Elliotte, I think I've got this right. Before we let you go, I believe this is the first time we've talked to you since the Philip Hronek trade, Vancouver, Detroit. What was your take on what the Canucks were thinking and what the Red Wings were thinking as well?
Well, I was surprised. I think I would be like most people there. I was really surprised. I thought in that Islanders pick, they had a really a good asset there. And so when I saw that got traded for Hronek, like I think I was probably like a lot of people out there, I was surprised. And well, first of all, one of the things is that the Islanders, you know, it's good. It doesn't look like that's going to be a top 12 pick.
Yep.
So I wondered. So part of my thinking here is that the Canucks looked at the Islanders situation and said that pick is not going to be unprotected next year. Like they made the educated guess or the gamble that they're not going to get an unprotected first rounder next year. So I think that's one of the reasons that they made the trade. The other thing is, like, I heard that Rutherford Alvin liked Hronek going back to when they were in Pittsburgh. Like, this is a player that they have liked for some time. And, you know, this trade, like, I'm supposed to be this insider, which I think is a terrible term anyway, but I'm supposed to be this insider. I didn't see this one coming at all. And one of the theories I have about that, Don, is that this was a player that Rutherford and Alvin had asked about when they were in Pittsburgh, and Steve Yzerman had kept notes about that or remembered that. And that Yzerman called when he reached out to the Canucks knowing they were looking for a right-handed defenseman and said, you still have interest in this player? And when the answer was yes, they got the deal done. Like, I don't think Hronek was widely available. And I think Yzerman remembered their interest and called them, and Vancouver was still, or these two people were still interested, and that's why the deal got done. So I think it was kind of between Vancouver wanted a right-hand D, they really liked Hronek, and I think they're gambling that the asset is not going to be an unprotected first rounder. I mean, the only thing that happens now, and I know people out there have talked about this, is when it comes to contract negotiations, it puts the player in a real good position of leverage. But I think the Canucks looked at it as, this is something we don't have, this is something we want, and we think this is something that's going to help us for a long time.
All right. I know you have a luncheon date with Tubbs. So,
hey, I could be Tubbs.
We'll let you go.
Elliotte, I could come down there and be Tubbs. We could be Miami Vice.
Oh, yeah.
I got to tell you, it's a real downturn from Don Johnson and Philip Michael Thomas to Elliotte Friedman and Rick Dollaway.
Yeah.
We are not going to be intimidating the criminals of Miami like those two did.
Great show.
You got the blazer. That's a good start. Thanks, Elliotte.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Okay.